Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new episode of Entrepreneurship Lab. This is your host, Nevena Bajalac, welcoming you once again to the podcast where we help you grow and scale your business. And as always, we bring you entrepreneurs to this show. We have real conversations and real piece of advice that can help you scale and grow your business. Today, we have a guest coming to us all the way from Canada. Her name is Mimi Vega. She is a chemist and she's an entrepreneur. She has very inspiring story about building her business, and she's a founder and CEO of VGAM, and she's a pioneer of Skin Science 3.0, new paradigm that seeks skin and not just as a surface, but as a living system shaped by hormones, stress, trauma, and all lived experience you had in your life. So you're going to learn so much today. I hope you're going to enjoy. So let's welcome Mimi to the show.
Thank you, Nirvana. So great to be here.
I'm very excited to meet you. I read about your story. I was very impressed, but I would like to hear just a little bit about your background. When did you decide to become an entrepreneur? You're a chemist, right? And I know that there is a lot of personal experiences that shaped you in what you want to do. So I would love if you would share with listeners as well a little bit about your story.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Yes, my story is based on multiple experiences. And although I did want to develop something much younger, that's why I became a chemist and a biochemist. And I did a PhD using microorganisms where I would, extract enzymes. So I would obtain natural ingredients. Anyway, all of that connected, but I didn't know how it would connect eventually. At the time, I really wanted to develop something that was intuitive and that made sense for the skin. But I felt I was missing something. And because I had this background, and yes, I love to learn. I love to learn. I spent a lot of time in universities. I didn't want to pursue academia, but I had that business mindset, but I also had a lot of training, right? So good opportunities came along. And because I felt like I was missing something and that the big lab could do better than I could, well, I decided to start working, and I worked in all different sorts of environment, and I put aside a bit my dream, but I was still very much an entrepreneur at heart. I guess in corporate world you would be an entrepreneur. But I did start in startups. So I worked in Mexico. We were living in Mexico at the time. I started for a startup in Mexico. And then when we came back to Canada, I worked for nonprofit organization. I worked for biopharma, all sorts of environment in the lab, in scientific affairs, medical affairs, always closely relating to the health, but always question, okay, why? And going deeper and trying to connect elements very earlier on in science. I had realized that we were looking at diseases or wellness in silos. We didn't connect, across. And because I had a lot of training in oncology, because I deep dived into the oncology just as much as I had deep dived on the skin when I had skin issues, which made me become a chemist in the first place. It's really the leukemia that my mother developed that made me deep dive into oncology and take this other path in this disease state. And you know that oncology affects different organs, like cancer, and we see it from like very like siloed point of view. Whereas, biochemistry while wise and cascade wise at the level of the cell, it's very similar what happens, like from in a colon cancer or breast cancer or or even skin cancer. Like there are parallels that can be done. And so this is like a life journey basically that led me to connect these elements and ultimately to come back to entrepreneurship. I'm going to stop there because there's a lot of other questions I'm sure you're going to ask, but I
Yeah,
can
no,
go,
I
you know,
love
like
it. I
it's a
think
life
that's
journey.
so interesting. So, can you tell us what exactly are you doing now at your company as entrepreneur? And what problems did you solve? Because, of course, as entrepreneurs, we're solving a problem. We want to create something different in the market. So, what was something that you saw is the problem? Of course, with all the research and knowledge you had. And what was maybe your passion or mission also? I think there is a lot of, passion I see in you to create something that's really working for people.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Well, life throws you a curveball. I certainly had a few. And at the time when I was working in oncology, again, my son was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And for me, like it's really destroyed my world at the time. He's doing all good now. He's like, it's been a while, many years, and he's healthy, he's grown up, he's strong, and yeah, so I can't be more grateful in that regard. But at the time, I had to take a step back. Also, very grateful for the biotech I was working for. They moved me into immunology. And this led me to connect other aspects. And as I connected the skin again with immunology and the oncology that I know, and at the time we were discovering all the benefits of the gut microbiome on the overall immunity of the body. And I was, oh, yes, interesting and connecting elements. And then I asked, okay, what about the skin? Of course, your gut microbiota affects your skin, but there's a microbiota on your skin. How is it, like affected? And how do we care for it? Because I remember as a teenager, we used to cleanse and over cleanse the skin. And, so that meant also removing the microorganisms, right? And I dived into that world and I realized, oh my God, we had stripped away some microorganisms that no longer exist on our skin. We completely ignored that aspect. And I realized, well, this is what was missing all along. And my daughter was turning a teenager at the same
Hmm.
time and opening my cabinet. And it was full of things because I had never really found a solution for myself. My skin was okay, but it was breaking out sometimes and it was dry patch sometimes. It was weird, like especially during perimenopause, like it's all over the place. And so she's going through my cabinet. I have other elements that I didn't know about like 20 years before. And and I tried to solve her issue while solving mine as well. I didn't want to, complicate my life. I wanted one thing. I want one solution that would work for me, for her, and I knew holding the pieces of both the chemistry of the skin, but also the microbiome, I knew I had everything, that I knew I had to build something. Otherwise, the big labs wouldn't because they're based on something completely different. It's,
Yeah.
entirely. So I again dived. I left biopharma and I connected other elements and I started from scratch. And this is what now I do. Not only did I formulate something, a system that makes sense, it took a few iterations because I wanted one thing, but I ended up with two because the skin needs the change all the time.
Yeah.
And so you have to be adaptable. And that's the way I build a system so that you can adapt depending on the day of the month, of the year, the season, your climate, you adapt. And your skin needs adapt like on a daily basis. From the food you ate to the exercise you did or did not do, or the sleep and everything. So all these
Yeah.
factors taken in, they're considered. But evidently, it's a completely different approach to the skin. I see the skin as a three barrier ecosystem that
Yeah.
work together. The
Yeah.
microbiota protecting the other two barriers, which are the water and the oils, right? And
Yeah.
with the salts, evidently, and all of that working together. But it's such a different approach
Yeah.
it's so simple. People say, "Well, how can this work?" Like it's so intuitive that you need to educate a lot. And
Yeah.
fortunately, and again, it's back to my life journey. I loved communications from the get-go. I was giving conferences. I had a radio show where I explained the chemistry, like of everyday life. And so I'm coming back to my roots with that education part as well. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I finished in 2025. I built a course for naturopaths
Yeah.
where that I taught at the naturopathic school and around that three barrier ecosystem and how to see the skin differently,
Yeah.
basically. So these are the two things I do.
I love that. So obviously there's a lot of knowledge and expertise for you in in all of these areas, putting it together. So now you created a really good product, yes. So how was it for you launching it out there as a product, right, to sell, and now getting into being an entrepreneur, selling your product? What are some challenges you faced at the beginning?
Well, at the beginning, I mean, I think I'm still at the beginning, but um, I guess it's a mindset shift, a
Hmm.
really big mindset shift. When you work for a few years in corporate, and even if I was an intrapreneur, I was still in corporate with a structure, with like a culture that's pre-established. When you're an entrepreneur, especially in a startup, you are the culture.
Yes.
So your mindset is everything. The people you work with, it's always evolving. It's evolving so quickly. You have to be very aware of how you feel, how you interact, and how you show up, basically. So that was a big shift. Did I lose you?
That's very interesting, and I love that. And definitely, mindset is so important. And it's a big shift, of course, when we worked in a corporation, when we had a structure, being an entrepreneur, you are kind of your own boss, but you work even more. But you have to learn so many other roles that when you work for a corporation, you don't. And I love that you mentioned that so much. I want to ask you, what were some things that helped you when you started reaching out to get customers for your marketing? What are some things that were very effective for you to launch and sell your product?
Well, I guess I hold a e-commerce. I think
Hmm.
it helped that I started my MBA in e-commerce at the time because I started it back when I was in Mexico, and e-commerce was just starting. So anyway, so I connected these dots. That is something else that I am using on a daily basis. Um, so for me, it was really important, the marketing aspect, the
Yeah.
positioning, the understanding the customer, the branding. It's on the sales side, it's been mostly e-commerce. So that was pretty intuitive for me from the
Yeah.
get-go. I'm not saying that the mechanics of it are that intuitive, but there are people that certainly do that better than I can. So
Yeah.
you have to find the right people for that, for sure. But one aspect is definitely the speaking I do. And when I talk about the products, because it's a new approach to skin, it's just the product. It's not just the product. It's because when people see, oh, it's skincare product. Yes, but it's like a multivitamin minerals for your skin, right? That you put on, it gets a complete different shift where we focus on what is common to everybody instead of looking at what is different. like these quiz that ask you, oh, your skin, it does this and that, and this is different because you have this and you need that ingredient for this thing. I bypass that. I go to the root functions of the skin. The skin needs all of these. They don't need AHA or BHA. This actually irritants and it disrupts, the functions of the skin. You need these ingredients that your skin produces, most of them on a daily basis, but we strip away with our metabolism, with the cities we live in, the contamination and everything. We put on makeup. We love, like how we feel and or just even sunscreen, but they contain ingredients that you don't want to leave on your skin. So what are you going to do? You're going to remove these.
Yes.
So, like it's a different approach. So a lot of education. And evidently,
Yeah.
when I speak, people understand better and they can
Yeah.
ask questions and it's very interactive, which I love. So this is how I've taken it when we go public, like a
Yeah.
conference or even public relations is what
Yeah.
works for
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
because in a way I am kind of the brand.
Yes. Yes, as
It's
an
not just the
expert,
product. Yeah.
exactly, as an expert. And I always talk about this when I'm consulting my clients and working with entrepreneurs. Like you have to position yourself as an expert. And what is perfect in your case, of course, you are really an expert who is a who is a chemist and knows so much. So you created the product and you have huge authority because of that. And when you speak, that's of course putting you in that position. Aha, she is authority. She really has the knowledge. This makes complete sense. Like you said, it's intuitive when we start using our brain to understand what's happening with our skin and our health. And I absolutely understand. And I think everybody who is listening, you have to, speaking is so powerful because when you're on stage, when you're on conference, when you're presenting whatever product or service you're offering, you are positioning yourself as authority. This gives you opportunity for people to have a aha moment, to understand your method, your strategy, your ingredients, whatever is that you are unique about, right? Because your approach, Mimi, is right. Like it's a completely different approach, like you said, to skincare. It's not just about the product; it's about understanding the whole process around it, and that's, I think, really good advice for entrepreneurs out there to position themselves as an authority, to speak more, to be more in front of people.
Yes, but yeah, I think this is one aspect, but it's also, in my case anyway, it's the content. Like yes, there's the content as the expert and the entrepreneur, but the solution I bring, there are solutions that are educative, right?
Yeah.
So, and the only way for me to communicate those is through digital or conferences or like it's educational tools.
Yes.
These are products by themselves in a way, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So maybe would you share with us in building your business so far, what was some aha moment for you, like from maybe not just your in your science, you had probably a lot of aha moment, like you explained, learning about immunology, about all different areas, but as an entrepreneur, when it comes to marketing now your product, getting out there, what was a aha moment for you that helped you scale and go forward fast?
um Letting go, letting go of many things, our ego, certainly, for sure. But it's funny, I was reading something earlier about authenticity, and now with AI, it's becoming more difficult to show up as authentic because there's so much noise. It's not noise, but it's become so easy to put content out there, that there's so much content that to differentiate yourself and to be heard authentically, it's become even harder, right? So I guess letting go of, yes, your ego, but what you think people want to hear and what just, you know, like just focusing on what you have to share, what you have to say, and the value. We go back to that, right? It's what you can provide in terms of value and focusing on that.
I
Yeah,
love that advice and letting
that's going to be
go.
my answer.
No, I love it. And actually, sometimes we are so tactical for
Yeah.
business, but letting go of our expectation, letting go of our ego, letting go of what people will think about us, I think that stops so many people getting out there with their product or service or their business. And I love this advice. So thank you for that, Mimi.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, especially at the beginning, I came from, you know, biotech corporate with lots of, you know, PhDs, MDs, and, you know, like, and I'm certain some were, you know, thinking, and some of us are still thinking, what is she doing? You know, like to leave this career. And, you know, like, so there was a lot of detachment that needed to happen. And yeah, and also, you know, I said letting go and detachment, but there's also, you know, like grounding yourself into, you know, like your intuition. Very, very important. This is an element I I shouldn't forget because this is the basic one. And when I forget it, that's when everything goes off. And because we do forget to listen in and we hear all these advice and then sometimes we get stressed because something's not working out. Okay, let's try this. And, you know, even if it's not aligned and we kind of know it's not aligned and, you know, but we try it anyway. And yeah,
Yeah.
the results,
And
well, are
fear
always
creeps in, you know.
learning,
Sometimes our
learning.
intuition is telling us, oh, like do
Yeah.
that, and then the fear creeps in, how I'm gonna do it, how it's gonna work, and that stops us. But I really love that as a final advice, especially on this episode, that our intuition is so powerful. It's leading us. It sees the bigger picture, and we should definitely follow it.
Yes, definitely.
Perfect. So thank you, Mimi, so much for sharing your story with us today. Thank you for being here. It was really a pleasure, and I'm sure all the guests are getting away with so much value today.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. I want to invite everyone to connect with Dr. Mimi Vega on LinkedIn, social media. Go check out, learn something different approach for your skin. Share it. All of us have someone that needs something that's really going to work for our skin. So that's my invitation to you. Leave us some comments. What would you like to hear next on the podcast? Which topic we should discuss, and give us some likes and hearts. And as always, share with at least one more entrepreneur that can benefit from this episode. Thank you for being here, for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.